For me, I think it's disappointing for Christian Pulisic, for the season that he's having and everything like that. These are the moments that define you as a character. And I feel for me, in those moments, as difficult, as bad a game as you have to back yourself to say, I'm going to do it. Everyone in that Milan shirt was a 7 or 8 out of 10. Mm-hmm. And that's the problem. And you look at today again, individual moments, Leao had to come on, his relationship with Hernandez, then there was attitude shown in body language by some players where they give the ball away and they're walking. They're not playing for the team. They're playing for their own individual self. João Felix has gone there. We talked about João Felix. For me, he's becoming
We shouldn't talk about him anymore.
He hasn't done nothing since being in Milan. He hasn't even showed me a 15-minute block to say, this is a quality, all that's missing is pieces around him. Reinders has still been the Reinders, but they're not a team. We cannot sit here and say AC Milan look like
big talking point as well, Pulisic not taking the penalty, right? And I think we talk a lot about his personality and how it helps him a lot of the time because he doesn't get involved in a lot of things that go on off the pitch, and he's a real professional and he's focused on his trade and everything else. But we talk about how he could be a little bit timid at times. And that moment, him being timid, not taking the penalty, he's their penalty shooter, right? This happened at Fiorentina under Fonseca, and Fonseca said he's the one who's supposed to take the penalty.
Yeah, it's happened to Pulisic before, actually.
But we don't. In that moment, though, he should say, you just showed up here a month ago. Get off the football. It's my football. I'm taking the penalty. There's a time to be selfish. There's a time to be a bad guy, especially when you're a footballer. There is. And sometimes if he takes that penalty, I'm sure he scores it because of his record and how good it is. If he takes the penalty out of Giménez's hands and converts it, we're talking about 2-2. We're talking about different Scudetto.
It's so easy to say that now. It's so easy.
Big talking point.
Pulisic also just recently missed a penalty for Milan.
No, but
we're talking 1 out of 20 professional penalties.
We're talking about Pulisic under Fonseca. Fonseca said he's the guy. Under Conceição, we still don't know.
That
maybe
really changes.
Maybe Conceição. Hold on,
but he's the guy. He's the guy.
Marco, if you are the dedicated penalty taker,
you're the guy under one coach.
No, it doesn't.
Why would you change it because he missed one penalty?
Maybe. I don't know. We're not in the locker room. How can we know that?
I'm telling you now, that does not change under what manager.
You can't say that Pulisic should grab the ball. That's like a Lorenzo Luka situation.
Marco, it does not change. If you are the penalty taker of the club, it doesn't matter what manager comes in. That means you are the best at penalties. You are the still designated penalty taker.
Nigel, tell me this as well. Hold on. Nigel, hold on. Tell me this also at the time. Forget about the manager was there. If you're playing in the team and now someone else takes it away from Pulisic, tell me all the leadership guys in the group are going, hold on 1 second. He takes our penalties. It doesn't have to come from the manager. It comes from the team. You know how they say the team picks itself? It's the same thing. I don't say no Pulisic takes the penalty. They should give it to Pulisic.
It's better to be respected than liked. I was captaining clubs at a very young age with men who were older than me in their late 30s, and I was their captain, and they respected me more so than they liked me because they had to respect me because in moments like that, they knew what they're going to get from me. So there's the moment of respect.
You got to know what to be the bad guy.
It comes around your team. You're going to have to
He's bad all the time.
I'm not disagreeing with your philosophy.
He's a bad guy all the time.
But we're speculating. We're completely speculating over who Giménez was not even there during the Fiorentina game. We don't know what Conceição told them.
My football.
You can't do that.
When you are the dedicated penalty taker of a football club, you are the dedicated penalty taker.
I thought Thierry had a really good point in Nations League. Are we asking Christian Pulisic to be something he's not? You know, you're asking him to step up in these moments, be this leader, be this big, vocal, loud, will go toe-to-toe with his teammates. That's just not him.
But you virtually scored.
Hold on. A player that wants to grab the penalty from someone else. All we did was bash Lorenzo Luka for doing that at Udinese.
You virtually score every professional penalty you've ever taken. You've missed one in your professional career. 1 for 20, 1 for 19, whatever it is, you miss. You should be taking the penalty because that's the best interest of your team. Plus, you've taken the penalties there.
Is that on Christian Pulisic or is that on his teammates to say we know that
everyone?
I think there's a bit of both. There's a level where Christian Pulisic has to stand up to it now. Yeah. He's been given this platform. We talk about him. You've been one of the main players for Milan this season. You have to stand up to that platform whether you like it or not to say, I'm going to take this penalty.
Let's make one last point about this. Milan did not lose the game because of this penalty situation. Milan lost the game because of the way that they start matches, and they never get in, and they never do what they're supposed to do throughout a match as a team.
As a unit, if they score, though, that penalty probably ends 2-2.
But Napoli with the best win of the day. Obviously, Antonio Conte has to be delighted, especially from the team that rejected him going into the season, as you just said.
Absolutely. The big talk for Milan when they got rid of Pioli, and I think we all sat here and said, the only reason you let go of Pioli is if you could get an absolute upgrade. Antonio Conte was the guy. Antonio Conte, before this game, said Milan should go on and compete for the Scudetto with the roster that they have, something that I think a lot of us would agree with. And Zlatan Ibrahimovic said, Conte is not the guy for us. He's not the coach we're looking for. We want a coach. We want a manager. AKA, we don't want somebody that's going to control us. And now he lost the 2 games to him. Antonio Conte's Napoli, with their worst roster, is going on to compete for the league title with 8 games to go. So big mistake.
Yeah, massive. What's the biggest takeaway, do you think, from this game, Grella? Is it Milan and having to try and get something in this second half and falling short again, or is it Napoli with this Antonio Conte magic?
You have to give the credit to Napoli because they get 3 points at home. It was a big moment. Inter wins before them. Obviously, we covered the game, so they have extra pressure as well. They have to have a good start in the game. We said where the goal is going to come from. Politano steps up. Neres, I thought, was fantastic as well, and they were good. The one thing, though, if you want to look at something that Napoli needs to work on, they invite teams back into the game. Like, they were in such a commanding position. They came out a little bit slower in the second half. They tried to slow the game down. A couple balls went out, and they tried to slow things down, to sort of pacify the game and get the 3 points. But they invited Milan in. They create the penalty. Leao, started causing some trouble. But you have to give credit to Napoli and especially Antonio Conte.
In the last game that we spoke about, Matteo Bonetti brought up a great point about when Hakan was down from Inter started to lose momentum. For me, the same thing when Lobotka went off for Napoli. They lose that calmness on the ball. They lose that ability to build out of the back, which is the staple of Antonio Conte's teams, because what do? Exactly the way that they score the goals. They build out of the back, and that's how, with 1 or 2 passes, they're able to go past Milan. So that's a big loss for them, and we need to see if he's going to be healthy in the next games.
The reality of it is when you look at Napoli and Inter, they both know it's us versus them for the Serie A title. So when you look at this, then you look at Inter getting that result earlier today, the pressure's on, and they're facing AC Milan, which you never know what version of AC Milan you're going to get. So for them to get a result against such a unpredictable opponent, I think you've got to give them credit. Because as much as you can be a manager and a coach, you try and keep your players on tunnel vision. Don't worry about results. These players are talking. They've got family and friends. Inter won today, so we have to win. So the pressure's on being at home. So for them getting a result, I think they deserve a lot of credit, more so than AC Milan, where we still don't know what to make of this team.
Inter was not able to beat Milan over 3 matches this season. In the Super Cup, in the 2 games in the season. Napoli was able to do it twice. So they did a really good job. We could say that, Milan's not a great team, Milan falls short, and that's absolutely true.
Does it leave them outside
sometimes in the big games, they step there. Milan's out of Champions League.
They're completely out of it.
For me, Milan's been out of Champions League for a while. There was a little bit of hope, and today it's completely gone.
It's been so bad for so long that we're almost like numb to the fact that we're watching. I'm looking at the sheet here, and they're in 9th. They're in 9th place.
Yeah.
And it's so poor. And there's not one thing you can take from it and say, well, but they've got better in this department. And by the way, they've spent a lot of money in the offseason. And then they had a mini rebuild in January. And they've changed managers. And they've tried to change. They came out and said, well, we're going to change our philosophy now. We're going to play this way. We're going to play Constantine, more direct, more. We thought at first we want to play possession football, and they've constantly changed things. And it seems like years ago, it seems like a lifetime ago that Tonali was there, that Pioli was there, that Maldini was there. It seems almost a lifetime ago that happened, and they haven't been able. If they could, I would like them to tell me what positive they can take from this season. I don't think, by the way, that in the offseason they go get another manager and it's just, boom, here you go.
Oh, you think Conceição stays?
No. I don't think. I think Conceição's gone.
A new manager.
I think Conceição's certainly gone. But I don't think there's a manager that comes in and fixes. There's too much going on.
There's one guy, but he rejected. They rejected him.
There has to be a culture shift at AC Milan right now.
But
we see enough of players. We see enough about players who play, like Rafael Leao. We talk about how good he is when he comes on. You can read the body language, you can read the face. Footballers' faces don't lie. And you could see he was annoyed that he didn't start today. And then even when he came on, you could see he was just basically, it's all about me, I'm going to do me.
It's the same story every week with Leao, isn't it?
But he's one of your best players.
And they're losing at half-time, then they bring him in, and he's kind of in a win-win situation then, because if he makes something of the game, then it's positive. And if he doesn't, well, they were kind of in that position to start with.
The big issue with Milan is that you could have bad seasons. You could have poor moments. It's obvious. Compare this to Juventus, but you have to make Champions League football. Milan's not going to be in Champions League football. Those are 2 completely different projects if you have Champions League revenue and if you don't have Champions League revenue. So none of us really had Milan fighting for the title, but we didn't think that they would be outside of a Champions League spot. This completely changes everything that they want to do. They have to get a sporting director. Which players are going to be sold now? Who do they bring in? Do you go for a younger project? This changes the outlook of the club.
We have more questions than answers, don't we? Just very quickly, we touched on this on Paramount Plus, but for those of you that might not have seen, we were talking about Pulisic not taking the penalty. He missed one, but he's got a great record. You think, Grella, that was a bad moment for the team not to stand up for him and give him the ball?
When we talk about Milan, we talk about all these things and the culture and these guys that carry the flag of Milan, like Tonali, Maldini, Pioli, the guys who did pretty good things at the club, right? Calabria also kicked out of the club this year. And you talk about the character issues, and you talk about these different things. And Pulisic, I said it earlier, but for me, I like his personality because it's business. He's all about the business, and he's a real professional. And he doesn't ride the peaks and valleys. He's right in the middle, and you can count on him all the time. But it actually hurt him today because he was so nice that he didn't say, hey, it's my football. Number one. Number two, it hurts that the leaders in the group, the big names in the group that have been there all year with him, or the last 2 seasons with him, and not say, hey, he takes the penalties here for now. And nobody stood behind him, and he let it happen. Mm-hmm. And in the end, I think it did cost the team points today. And so, listen, we're speculating. It's a lot of speculation. We don't know exactly the situation. We were not there. But for Giménez to come only 2 months ago into the team and take that penalty, seems a little bit. It rubbed me the wrong way.
I'm just hearing DAZN is actually reporting Leao did give the ball to Pulisic, and then he was the one that passed it on. So does that leave the same opinion then if he felt like he couldn't take the penalty in that moment? Because that was his decision to pass the ball away.
He was having
a shame.
How does that make you feel?
What if I pass the ball away?
No, the whole situation. Now knowing that we just found out live that Pulisic didn't want it.
Also, because
does it make you feel?
Because of the history of the last penalty situation when the ball was taken away from him, and the manager backed him to say he's our club penalty taker twice. They took the ball away from him. Then now you have a moment to step up to the plate to be that man, and you pass on the responsibility. It doesn't play well.
It's strange.
It's being too nice.
But why would you?
But maybe he didn't feel right. He didn't feel right to take the penalty.
For me, I'll just read it into it's a lack of confidence.
But we've said Christian Pulisic
being too nice
for the team.
It's being too nice.
It's lack of confidence.
Don't you need him to step up and say, okay, I'm the penalty taker?
They often say, I don't know. I listen to what some of the best ever say, the coaches, and they say there was a moment even recently, right? Was it Brazil or someone, or actually with Ancelotti? Ancelotti, he gave the penalty kick to Rudiger, who felt better in the moment, even though he had one plan, and I don't remember if it was Endidik or someone who didn't feel it. If you don't feel right to take the penalty, and he gave it to Giménez, that's his decision.
Mm-hmm.
Listen, for me, I think it's disappointing for Christian Pulisic, for the season that he's having and everything like that. These are the moments that define you as a character. And I feel for me, in those moments, as difficult, as bad a game as you have to back yourself to say, I'm going to do it. Because he's at that level now. And this is what we talk about, the character, that bit. You have to do it. It doesn't read well for him by just passing the buck.
So 19 out of 20, he felt it today. Stars aligned. He didn't feel it. He gave it to Giménez. That's being too nice. And being too nice, I think, cost him and cost the team today.